Don't make me use my clap once, clap two, clap twice. All righty. So, thank you so much. Okay, Andre, are we ready? Ready to rock. All right, we are about to get ready for side one and two of our double album presentation sessions. So, this evening, afternoon, I don't know how to address where we are because I don't even know what time it is. Um, that's how much, yeah, what time is it? Yeah. I do. So come on in, everybody. So we're going to get started with the first set of 1999 presentations. And then in the morning, we're going to have a virtual set of 1999 presentations. The presentations are what I look forward to a lot. But to be honest, I also look forward to the roundtables. And so I'm just lying. But it's all good. Everything is really thought-provoking, but usually with the presentations, I don't know, they kind of linger sometimes. And we have some heavy hitters. And actually, Zaheer is presenting at a Polished Solid Symposium for the very first time. Yes, he normally just does the For You crew. See, I picked it up. Thank you for whoever said that. It was a great name. I think we're gonna adopt it. So I'm really excited about that. And we're gonna start off with Zaheer. But before we do, we're gonna do our Menti thing. I think it's working. Yes. So Menti, MENTI.com, and the code this time is 8829. Oops. Yes, that's right. 8829-0768. So those out you in TV land, 8829-0768. Please, if you have a question for a particular presentation, address it to that particular person. And then after the presentations, we'll bring this Menti code back up for you. And then if you don't mind, it would be great if you also put your name at the end so we know where the question is coming from, because I really want to know who came up with the For You crew, because it's brilliant. So let me know. Unless you want to remain anonymous like Jamie Starr, that's okay. I understand. So without further ado, we're going to bring up Zaheer. So just give me a hot second.
All right. Um, Thank you. Thank you. I guess I'm gonna take this. Okay. Thank you, D'Angela. And I don't know if Elliot remembers this, but I think I helped lobby for us to do What Time Is It? Because I know Elliot wanted to do something specifically on Vanity 6 as a presenter, and I wanted to do something on 1999 as a presenter. So we kind of cut a deal, backroom deal. So my presentation is titled "Free." Be glad that you are free. 1999 as Black Speculative Futurism, and just to kind of give you a little background of where this is coming from. I am creating and curating something called the Print Syllabus. I work at an institute called the Hutchins Institute for Social Justice at the Lawrenceville School, which is a secondary independent school in New Jersey. And I'm the director of that and founding director of that institute that's designed to advance social justice through scholarship, programming, and experiential learning for high school students. And in that realm, with the support from the Pop Culture Collaborative and their Becoming America Fund, I got a small little grant to develop the Prince syllabus. And the Prince syllabus will use the life and music of Prince as a way to activate audiences around social justice. So it's building, and really it's building on all, and very much indebted to the work that D'Angelo has done. It's building on the work around fan studies and fan culture, and really what is the kind of scaffolding that we need to provide people who come to Prince's work so they understand all of the cultural currents that inform that work and add to their literacy around what they are encountering. And so it is in that regard, in that respect, that I'm looking at 1999 as a Black futurist text or Afrofuturist text. Many of us know the story that Prince, while on tour, on the Controversy Tour in 1981, is sitting in a hotel room watching HBO, which broadcast The Man Who Saw Tomorrow, which was a documentary narrated by Orson Welles about Nostradamus, who, medieval figure who some series of calculations supposedly predicted events that would take us into the millennium. That is one of the genesis stories for 1999. Another important element in understanding 1999 is the visual aesthetic. We know that he asked Alan Beaulieu, the photographer, to emulate the visual aesthetic of Blade Runner, which had come out in 1982. And some of the elements are the use of neon, the use of striking lighting that, sort of isn't natural lighting, but directed lighting, shadows, smoke. This was to depict a kind of cyberpunk future that Blade Runner became known for. It wasn't a big hit as a movie, but it has had enduring influence for its visual aesthetic. And so for Prince to be engaged or wanting to think about his presentation of 1999 through a framework that comes out of sci-fi, I think is really important in understanding Prince as an Afrofuturist. And I know that 1999, The New Master, is like hated upon because there are a lot of reasons not to like this. But what's interesting to me is that it is in some of Prince's less listened to or less paid attention to work where you actually see a lot of his engagement in the tradition of Afrofuturism, which I think is partly why he doesn't get credit in terms of Afrofuturism. When people talk about Afrofuturism, he's often not part of the conversation. Or when we talk about Prince and his engagement with these themes, it's usually framed by Nostradamus and Blade Runner. And it's, we know that 1999 was a very clear intention by Prince to reach a broader market. But I want to complicate the crossover framing or the crossover narrative that is used, which often is something that diminishes the value of Black audiences, that success or value of an artist relies on them having to cross over or leave or go over to Whitelandia. And market-wise, that is true that Prince did travel to Whitelandia. He did. But he didn't do that by taking a bridge. He waded through the waters of Blackness and Black cultural practices. And so it wasn't that he was going to Whitelandia. He invited Whitelandia to what is a tradition that had a long-standing currency in Black culture, which is Afrofuturism. So Afrofuturism was coined, and my iPad just went to sleep. Okay, Afrofuturism was coined in 1994 by Mark Derry, who's actually a white scholar, who was in conversation with Samuel Delany, Greg Tate, and Trisha Rose, the great late Greg Tate. And in that, Derry is the first to coin the phrase or the term Afrofuturism when he says speculative fiction that treats African American themes and addresses African American concerns in the context of 20th century technoculture, and more generally, African American signification that appropriates images of technology and a prosthetically enhanced future might, for want of a better term, be called Afrofuturism. But we know that people have been practicing this before it had the term, right? Like, you didn't need to give it a name for it to have actually been happening. Since Derry coined, or even before Derry coined the term, there are elements of Afrofuturism that go back to Martin Delany, writings of W.B. Du Bois, and so forth. And then, of course, since coining that term in 1984, the idea of what constitutes Afrofuturism has expanded significantly through the work of Black writers, Black visual artists, Black musicians, Black, all areas of Black life. But oftentimes and so the Smithsonian, Museum, National Museum of African American History and Culture just opened a new exhibition called Afrofuturism in a History of Black Futures. And this is from the catalog, which was just published. And Prince is mentioned once in a list of list of things to listen to in his Dirty Mind, the Dirty Mind album. But he isn't really treated in the context of Afrofuturism. It's mostly, kind of Sun Ra, Space is a Place, Parliament and the Mothership, and that is often the people that people talk about Afrofuturism. So there are two things happening here that I want to challenge. One is the erasure of Prince from the practice of Black culture, right? We should not be participating in that erasure. And it is the erasure of Blackness from Prince's cultural practices. We definitely don't want to be practicing or contributing to the erasure, right? So in thinking about what are some of the elements of Afrofuturism as it has grown, and it's like wide, everything from pop culture like Black Panther to Octavia Butler. So it has like a wide span. But here are some of the themes that I think really come into play in Prince's work that I'm just going to touch on and gesture to. And that is fluidity. Right? The resisting of constraints, the constraints of time, but also the resisting of the constraints of technology. And I kind of hinted at this in our roundtable, that even though there's an engagement with technology, this engagement with technology in a certain kind of way that bends it or challenges this, right? Like, of course, we know with hip hop, you have, a turntable was made to play a record in linear, in one direction. Right? That was what the technology was designed for. But some folks came along and said, we're going to do something a little bit different, right? And so the technology then responded to that. So you got techniques coming up with stabilizers and belt drives to make it easier to do this. And now you have Serato with, the digital version of this. But you can have all of the technology, but there's an element, and this is like, what is the human element in all of this, right? What is the creative element that makes it possible to do something creative with this technology? And so I think that is in the fluidity, right? And technology built on binaries of ones and zeros, is structured on a this or that logic. Very complex, can seem very fluid, but it still boils down to this binary. And we know that Prince, of course, resisted that binary. Speculation, alternative narratives, the multiverse. We talked about the Prince verse, right? What are the different kinds of storylines that are happening with this? Time shifting, we've talked about. Mobility is very important. The ability to move freely, right? Whether it is in a cab with the cab driver or some other way. And community world making, right? So there is the tradition of marriage, right? How do you build and create and establish communities? And again, space and joy as resistance. So I look at 1990, there's different ways to periodize Prince's work, right? But I look at 1999 as the end of a trilogy in terms of Afrofuturism. Because for you and Prince, we're pretty much in Prince's bedroom, right? Dirty Mind is the first time Prince brings us out of the bedroom with Uptown, right? It's when he starts engaging social issues outside of relationships. He continues and, of course, destroys the binary. In controversy, he addresses it directly, right? Am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? He's resisting that 1 or 0, right? He's resisting the binary. And then he continues to explore, the issues that are pertinent. The newspapers, right, that form the background of the cover art with headlines. This is speculative fiction, right? This is alternative news, right? It is creating an alternative historical timeline that constitutes this Prince verse, right? So this is the speculative text that Controversy, the album, brings. And this comes to fruition with 1999, bringing the kind of futurism, the predictive element of this, and something else that I'm going to lean into. With Purple Rain, he takes us back into the bedrooms. Okay. But then reemerges with Around the World in a Day. But, so I see this as a trilogy, an Afrofuturist trilogy. And the reason why I think this is so important, and the theme that's so important in Prince's work, is fugitivity, right? And that's a key element in Afrofuturist thinking or ideas, is this how not to become captured, right? How to evade captivity, right? Whether it's captivity in the technology, to not be captured by the technology, like use the technology, right? So that's why I like this, the new master, because there's this sort of cyborg representation happening with the new master, but it's not capture, right? And so it's really important to understand the themes in 1999 as themes about freedom that evade capture. So that I was dreaming when I wrote this, forgive me if it goes astray. So this astray, this is the word I kind of want to lean into. Astray is to deviate, right? Astray is to stray from the line. It's to go outside the box. It's to go outside the accepted narrative. And these themes of being sort of engaged but outside, this fluidity, this moving in and out. Even when he does DMSR, dance, music, sex, romance, and he does the hand clap count, right? There is a kind of timekeeping but evasion that comes with it, right? And so, this is most expressed, of course, in Free, which, I was laughing when D'Angelo, said that's not your favorite. It was not my favorite song either. But again, I was thinking about, why is this here, right? And of course, there's freedom that people would think of as little d, democracy, right? And this sort of way that freedom doubles as understanding a relationship as a democratic relationship, right? Like free to leave, right? But there's also free in this evading capture, right? Evading the capture of technology, evading the constraints of time, right? And the ability to move with that fluidity and creativity and innovation and invention. So at this point, this is where I would sort of ask you to turn to your neighbor. We're going to do a little speculative fiction work here, right? Because this is going to be a syllabus, so it has a lesson. We get with the concepts, and now we got application. So you're going to turn to your partner or someone that you're sitting with, and I want you, so Prince released 1999 and 1982, right? So he jumped 17 years, right? So I want you, we're at 2023, so I want you to jump to 2040. I want you to think about an issue. I'm going to give you a 30 seconds, a minute, to think about an issue and come up with a headline for 2040. Right? So I'm going to give you about 2 to 3 minutes to think about a headline to come up with whoever is sitting with you. We will have a share back, so I hope y'all are doing this. I'm going to give you 15 more seconds. And then I want to hear some headlines. Okay, let's hear some of the headlines that you have speculatively come up with. Yes. Yes. Portia. Escape from New York. Okay, Escape from New York. Yes, David. Okay, Chat MPG wins new old album of the year at the Grammys. Okay, silly. Black citizens in Mississippi finally obtained their water rights. Yes. Prince wakes up from suspended animation and finds his way home. Okay, yes. First capsule to Mars has left. So the reason, one more, yes. As a day of celebration as the reparations checks came out. Now, as was the case with 1999, Prince's predictive speculation was less about the future, but the contemporary moment in which he was writing. And your future headlines reflect concerns that you have now. And so oftentimes the way that people would do the time shift is that this is a way to critique the present moment indirectly. Right? And so there's a lot of dissembling and evasion that is necessary to avoid capture, right? Both physical capture. I mean, this is coming out of the experience of enslavement, right? So there's a lot of evasion and dissembling that's necessary to avoid capture, and understanding slavery as a technological institution, right? Whereby slaveholders mastered techniques of management, of labor control, of organization, of efficiency, of productivity. And so coming out of that tradition, how do we evade that, right? And so, part of this is looking forward and looking back at the same time. And so as we think about Prince, I want us to think about Prince as not just a musician, which he was, but to take him seriously as a thinker, right? And so let me be clear about how I'm thinking about Prince as an Afrofuturist. Sun Ra never said, I am an Afrofuturist, but he was, right? Prince did not have to intentionally say, I'm an Afrofuturist to participate in a tradition out of which he comes. Right? And if anyone had doubts about Prince's participation in Black cultural practices, I'm going to leave you with two videos that span time, right? The first is from his very last televised appearance on the Grammys, where he said, let me just play it. Oh.
Albums still matter. Like books and Black lives, albums still matter. Tonight and always.
So that phrasing is really interesting to me about, I was like, oh, that's, everybody was like, cool, Prince said Black Lives Matter. But why did he say books and albums and Black lives? Why did he put that all together, right? And in the Afrofuturist lens, these are formats. A book is a format, an analog format. An album is a format, an analog format, like ideally, right? And thinking of Black life as an analog format, as a container of data, as a carrier of information, right? And that is the fundamental thing that has to be protected in the Afrofuturist project, right? And what is Prince as a medium carrying? And so I'm going to leave us we started with the last known public appearance of Prince on television. I'm going to leave us with his first known public appearance on television. Digging into the archives. And this is from the archives of WCCO TV, Minnesota TV station, that they were looking at footage around a teacher strike, because there was a teacher strike in Minnesota, and they went looking to see the old coverage. And I hope the volume for this is loud enough. Okay. So this is young Prince at 1970.
Are most of the kids in favor of the picketing?
Yep.
How come?
I think they should get a better education too, and I think they should get some more money, cause they be working extra hours for us and all that stuff.
That is Prince full circle. That is Afrofuturist Prince. That is Prince who is very clearly coming from a black community that values education and labor. And so that is how I think of 1999 as a speculative futurist task. Thank you.